Hi everyone, I'm Bob Campana, and if you would have told a 20-year-old me that I'd end up building over 8 different companies in my hometown that generated over $250 million in sales, I would have laughed. But here we are, and I'm here to share the real, timeless lessons that got me there. You see, I started my first business before social media was even a thing. There was no Instagram, there was no Facebook. Just a whole lot of good old-fashioned hustle that was required. And guess what? Building a brick-and-mortar business, the principles still work back then. They're in play today. So if you're looking to build a business that lasts without getting lost in the noise, you're in the right place. So at 21 years old, I started my first business with $500, scaled that up to 170 employees and over $17 million in sales. That was a swimming pool and landscaping construction company. When I sold that, I also was building custom homes. So I go out and build like a custom home from start to finish. One of the unique things I did in the custom homes is I would only build the home and then put it for sale when it was finished. I never would work for a customer in that department. I had a video store. I had an emergency plumbing company. I had an air conditioning business. I basically built it to a restaurant company as well. And now I've got an international small group tour company. All along the way, there's valuable lessons that I learned in brick and mortar business that I'm here to share with you. People buy from people they like. So one of the things about the pool business that I understood was the motivation of why people were buying a pool. They were buying a pool as a general rule for their children. So when I will go out on a pool sale, I had a special clause on the back of my contract, which called the clean room clause, telling the kids, now here's the deal, kids. I can build you a bigger and a more exciting pool if you'll sign on the back of this contract that you will keep your room clean for the entire year when we're building this pool. If for any reason you do not keep your room clean, I'm gonna let your parents give me a call and I'm gonna bring Big Bertha out. Who's Big Bertha? Big Bertha was a sump pump that I could put in the pool and suck all the water out in 2 hours. So if they didn't keep their room clean, I could get a phone call, Big Bertha would show up and they'd start sucking the water out of the pool. The kid, no, don't drink it. But the kids loved it. And the parents would call me up and say, I can't believe it. This kid's room's been clean for 2 weeks. That relationship where the kids bonded to Bob and the family bonded to Bob made the price less important because they wanted to buy from someone who cared about them as a whole. And understanding the motivation when someone's buying the product, whatever it might be, is such a critical, important thing. Now, I read a very interesting book when I first started out. It was about a guy by the name of Jan Carlson. He took a business that was losing $17 million a year and in 24 months turned a $77 million profit. What he did is he broke down the sales transaction into 2 components, memory moments and moments of truth. A memory moment was any point in the transaction that a customer could make a judgment on the performance of the business. So as an example, there are 3 outcomes to a memory moment: positive, negative, and neutral. If you go into the grocery store and go buy a gallon of milk and you bring it to the counter, you expect it to be cold, you expect it to be fresh. Now, on the other hand, if you go and buy it and take it home and it's warm and it's sour, that's a bad memory moment. Mr. Carlson said, manage the memory moments. In a swimming pool, it was more like 45 or 50. When did they show up on time? Did they keep my yard nice and clean? Did they respect my property? Did they basically answer my questions when I asked them? All of these things were generated in their mind, positive, negative, or neutral. I'm not going to guarantee you're not going to have a problem, but I'm going to tell you what, if Bob builds your pool, he'll take care of you. That was the moment of truth. And that made the difference between making a sale and taking an order. I would show up to that neighbor. They would say, you built Mary and Joe's pool. We hear you did a great job. At that point, I already knew. All I had to do was design the pool, basically tell them what it's going to cost and write the order. Managing the memory moments for the moment of truth in any business is a valuable lesson to learn. Building a relationship with something that's dear to people is extremely important because it's so emotional and it's so important to them that their money is being spent in a proper way. And in the position of the swimming pool, you're in their lives for 6-8 weeks at their home, inside and outside their backyard. One of the most critical things was respect. People wanted to be respected. And one of the things about respect was keeping a clean job site. That was another memory moment. If they walked into the backyard, their back patio was hosed off, everything was clean and neat, and there was a note on their table that explained to them what work had been done today and what would be coming up next. They really enjoyed that. That was another memory moment as well, as far as communication was concerned. So constantly informing them on what was going to happen next, what was going on, keeping the job site neat and clean. That was respecting their property. And even though they might not know it, they could feel it, that it was looking good. In relationship, if a competitor was down the street building a swimming pool, they weren't doing that. They weren't keeping things clean. Well, at that point, that was another subliminal message that they weren't being respected. Consistency and persistence. The combination of consistency and persistence are something that are going to be your reputation. If you consistently show up when you say you're going to show up, if you're persistent doggedly on making sure the quality is there, that's kind of a challenge, because when you have different people working on different jobs, different employees have different aspects of what quality is. So you have to be in a constantly vigilant training, overseeing, supervising the process on how it's being put together, so that you're not making any excuses. And the quality is what the people are paying for. That is reflected in the way that you treat your workers. If your workers are respected and treated, then they're going to respect your customers. So I start with the employees. I start with forming a relationship with any new hire. I basically sit them down, thank them for coming to work for us, let them know that I am here to work with them and to resolve any issues or problems that they have, and I'm here to help them in their journey in life. It's a persistent and never-ending job to maintain that quality. It's something that will never go away, and you always have to stay on top of it, but it takes pride to be able to stay on that. So over the years, when I first started out, the way that we would communicate was with a pager. Somebody would page us, and we'd have to go find it. There was before cell phones. You have to be a leader in adapting technology. So we started out, the first thing we did was we plumbed and steeled and did the electrical and the setting of the pool equipment and everything of that nature with our own crew. That was the first crew that we did. But we'd have to wait for someone to dig our swimming pool hole. We realized relatively quickly that that wasn't going to fly, that more capital was needed, dump trucks, equipment, operators, all of that. One thing led to another. Technology changed. And how would I maintain the quality control? I would go out and physically visit the job 1 to 2 times a day to be sure that it was going correctly. I'm 71 years old, and I'm here to tell you the problems never go away. Problem resolution needs to be handled with a clear mind and a calm demeanor. If you get emotions involved into your problem resolution, you're going to have an emotional outcome, and usually that isn't a good way to go. So learning your own inner self and being able to have an inner calm when a problem comes to you, analyze what the best solution for the problem would be, approach it in a couple of different ways, interact with that, and see to it that you have a resolution to the problem that doesn't have the problem reoccur again. So being able to resolve problems in your business and being able to do it in a calm demeanor is an increasingly important situation, because everybody's so sensitive anymore, especially some of these younger hiring people that we bring in, like the snowflake generation or whatever. A lot of sensitivity going on there where they haven't learned problem resolution yet. All they've learned is to lash out if something doesn't go their way. So learn your problem resolution, study it, practice it, and get better and better at it. And you will discover that your ability to have this relationship with people, they're going to be bringing you problems. They're going to be calm, and they're going to go, what are we going to do about that? And my standard answer or question, as we stated a little bit earlier, was I would ask the customer, what do you suggest we do about it? And if they made a resolution that was satisfactory, that we could accomplish, we would adapt that resolution, basically letting the customer ask and answer their own question. Any small business owner that starts to grow their business, one of the first things that they're going to encounter is, I need help. Who's going to help me? That's the hiring process. And I can assure you that is probably the most critical skill that any entrepreneur needs to learn: how to read people and how to basically get them to be on your side and give 110% when they're on the job. I had a good friend of mine, his name was Donnie Monaco, and he had this large glass company in our town. And I spoke to him a while back on what he did when he was hiring people, and his insight was extremely interesting. He would basically interview the person, his standard thing: what kind of job do you want, what your skill levels is, and all of that. But then he would walk them out to their car. When he walked them out the car, he would look in the car. If their car was neat and clean and taken care of, that person would get hired. If he walked back the car and they had like their fast food bags and a bunch of dirty clothes in the back seat and everything, that person wouldn't get hired. Their actions spoke louder than their words. So Donnie would basically look at an example of how they lived their life, and that was how he would base his hiring decisions. I don't know that that's fairly simplistic today, and I don't know if that can be done because a lot of hiring is done online. I don't think that's a good thing. I think it has to be in person where you can meet that person and you can understand, because they're going to be a representative of your company. And that person has to have a will and a desire to work for you, and they have to need that job and want to have pride in what they do. Being able to respect your employees, being able to lay out clear parameters on what their job descriptions were and what was expected of them to put out a quality product for the customer and what you were looking for. If you could make a meeting of the minds with that employee and with yourself, your customer would get the service that you were providing for them and professing when you were making the sale. Systems that will produce a predictable outcome. When I was growing in my business career, just like you're looking at this tape right now or this video right now, you're looking for information. I was constantly doing that. I was listening to audio tapes. I was watching videos. I was going to seminars. I was doing all of the different things to educate myself to be a better business person. I came across this book. It was called The E-Myth by an author by the name of Michael Gerber. And he posed this question. He said, why is it that McDonald's can basically make a hamburger in my hometown, but I can get on a jet and fly halfway across the country, get off, and go in and have that same hamburger made by two people that more than likely didn't make their bed in the morning? It was done with a system with a predetermined outcome. Building systems and segmenting work, where you would segment work from point A to point B. So if we use the example of McDonald's, they would go in and they would basically make it idiot-proof. So they would put the patty on the grill, they would hit the green button. The green button would let that patty cook for 1 minute and 45 seconds, however long it was. A buzzer would go off, they would flip the patty, they would push the green button, it would go for another 90 seconds, and now the hamburger was done. They had a diagram, we've all seen it, where we're gonna put ketchup on, but it had a gun. One squeeze, put the exact amount of ketchup on. They segmented the work to where it wasn't some guy making a hamburger the way he wanted it. It was the way the hamburger was made, the way McDonald's wanted it. And they segmented the work. The people that were frying the hamburgers were not making the French fries. The people that were making the cold drinks were not making the French fries. The person that was up at the counter was not cooking the food. Each segment of work was basically set down to a small segment where they could get good at what they were doing. A system, in my particular case, that I monitor how the quality of the work in a restaurant is, what's the tip average? If my servers are getting an average of 20 to 25% on their tips, I already know they're getting a good service in the restaurant because the people are tipping accordingly. If a server is getting lower tip average, we're going to watch that over a little bit because there's a reason for that, because the people don't see the value in the service that that particular person is rendering to you. The goal is to provide more quality and more service than is predicted in the beginning. So here we are at the end of this video, and I want to tell you that this channel is going to be dedicated towards helping brick-and-mortar businesses become better in their communities and how the owners of the business can have a more fulfilling life with predictable outcomes going forward. If you want to learn a little bit more from me, you can subscribe to this channel, or I've written a book. It's on Amazon, Bob Campana, Don't Look Down. This kind of chronicles my journey as a small business entrepreneur, and it's a way that you can know a little bit more about me. If you, on the other hand, say, you know, this Bob guy, he seems like somebody that I might be able to learn from, reach out to me, direct message me, and maybe we can work together in the future. Thank you so much, and would you consider subscribing to my channel, because I'm going to be constantly, each video is going to be focused on helping that brick and mortar business to be better and more profitable. So until next time, let's get together again.